Icosa, another project that is going to be launching that actually is by the founders of Hedron. They are putting this together. And if you're familiar with Hedron, you're probably aware that there's not a ton of incentive to actually hold Hedron, right? It's cool, it's free, but it's basically dust in terms of the price. If you look at the price, it is 0.00006586 cents, like dust, as I mentioned. Still cool, but not very valuable. So what is something that you could do to maybe help make Hedron more valuable? Because the utility that it provides is cool, but it doesn't provide any utility to hold the token, just for people to actually utilize their portal, right? Their dApp. So we're going to get into that in this video as we take a look at Icosa. First, we're going to take a look at the features, or just do a quick rundown of Hedron, and then we're going to take a look at this. And there's four basic pieces here, with each one of them being interesting in and of itself, that we're going to take a look at, and it's going to be super interesting. So with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's Gucci? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, it's good to freaking see you. Now, if this is your first time here, or if you are returning and you'd like to support the channel, you can check out some links down below. We've got some cool products. Shop.letstalkpeds.com. Shop.letstalkpeds.com. Got a bunch of cool stuff over there, and adding a new product every month, or multiple new products every month, at least for the last several months, and this is going to continue into the month of July. So check that out if you're interested, or check out other ways to support down below by other social, etc. Let's take a look at Hedron real quick. So Hedron, there's three basic things here. You can get free Hedron by having a hex stake. So hex, right, is going to be the programmable certificate of deposit, so to speak. Not where the price is, but the yield can be there. The price can fluctuate all over the place, right? But the yield is programmable effectively. And when you look at Hedron, if you have a hex stake, you can actually get free Hedron, right? So then what do people value that they get for free? Not a lot, right? So people just dump the shit out of this token, Hedron. Well, there's two other things that Hedron does, right? So you can get Hedron for free by having a hex stake, by earning, the yield in hex, or you can use their portal, right? So you can go through here and go to their dApp, their application here, and you could actually create a hex stake through this protocol, which then allows you to create NFTs. This is OpenSea. OpenSea is a platform for NFTs, non-fungible tokens. So you could take your hex, put it through this front end for hex, and by doing so, you're taking the hex contract and you're wrapping this with another contract, and this allows you to create an NFT. Where one of the issues with hex is that if you have it in a specific wallet, it is tied to that wallet for perpetuity. There's nothing you can do about it. If the wallet is compromised, too fucking bad, right? You can't do anything. By going through Hedron and using their front end, you're actually able to now transfer that but with the NFT. So that's cool. That's dope, right? But one of the things is that it's clearly being used by a decent number of people. There's 563 items that have been listed, and 672 have been sold over the last 90 days. So it's getting used to a certain extent, right? Not like stupid, crazy adoption. And if you look at this, like there's 1 or 2 sales per day, basically, except for there was 5 this day and 4 this day over the last 90 days here. So nothing crazy, but again, it's brand freaking new. So that's the second thing that you can do with Hedron. The third thing, right? So you get Hedron for free. You can tokenize your hex stake so that you can sell it as an NFT. And the other thing is that you could borrow Hedron against that, against your stake. So if you look at this, this is the stakes that have been borrowed against. So you go into here and you stake through here by creating your HSI. That's what they call it. And then once you have that there, you can borrow Hedron against your hex stake. Now this is super fucking risky, right? Like it makes sense why nobody's utilizing this. As you can see, there's like 8 of them in here. And these are probably put in here by some founders, because you can think about it from a standpoint of risk. We have 2 things to take a look at here. First of all, say you have a $1,000 hex stake that you put in through this front end, and then what you're effectively able to borrow is like $7 fucking dollars, right? So you have a $1,000 hex stake and you can borrow $7 against it, which increases the risk. If you forget to pay that, right, for 90 days, you lose your $1,000. So for $7, you could lose your $1,000. Like, it just doesn't seem like a super intelligent move for a lot of people. And then when you take an even deeper look, the risk is even greater than that. So I've done several videos on this you can check out on the channel. If you borrow in crypto and you borrow something like a stable coin, at some point you decide to pay that stable coin back, that's the price at which you pay. Right? If you borrow $100 if you borrow $500 against $1,000, then you pay $500 back. Now, if you borrow Hedron, and Hedron has a 10x, right? Easily possible in crypto, happens all the fucking time. Then you used your Hedron borrowing to go, buy something that you wanted, and you decide that you are going to pay this back because you have to make a payment every 30 days. And then if after delinquency of 90 days, it goes up for auction, right? So if that happens, that price goes up. The cost to pay your loan back also goes up, because now you have to go buy Hedron at an inflated price. So an example of this would be this duplex, right? So I have this house, and if I were to have a loan that was structured similar to how Hedron is structured, then if my value of the house doubles, or let's take, for example, over the last 5 years, the house value has tripled, right? So the house value has tripled in the last 5 years. Now, if I had this type of loan, then my debt would have also tripled. Do you want your debt to go up in value? Probably not. That's super fucking risky. So when you take into consideration and you think about these things, you're like, yeah, no shit, this is not going to get used very frequently, right? It just doesn't make fucking sense to do that. And that is what brings us into Icosa, right? If you go to their website, the first page here, which is icosa.pro, Icosa is a protocol which builds upon the Hedron protocol to add Hedron staking and additional incentives for staking hex, as well as jumpstart the Hedron borrowing system, right? Because nobody's using it. Just as I just described, doesn't make sense to borrow Hedron. You have $100 stake and you can borrow 36 cents. Like, that doesn't make a ton of sense, right? What are you going to do with that? Even if you're at $1 million hex stake and you could borrow like 10 grand off of that, it just doesn't make sense, because then you're risking your $1 million if you forget to pay that back, and something happens to you medically and you lose your $1 million because you can't get to access to your crypto. It just doesn't make any sense. So this is trying to help create more usage of this, right? They just say it here on the first page. And how are they going out and actually doing this? So this is kind of interesting. They have 4 different things that they've talked about here. Let me make sure you guys can see this, okay? Okay. They have this HSI buyback. So you can sell your HSI, which is right in here, right? You create an HSI, which is just a stake, to the Icosa contract, and you get paid in Icosa, right? So as soon as I read this, I was like, oh, okay, cool. So you can just, create any type of ratio to sell your shit for some made up coin, right? But all this shit is made up effectively. I'm not saying that necessarily in a bad way, because all this shit is fucking made up. But the actual value that one receives for selling their HSI is not necessarily going to be determined by the ratio, because the price of this ICSA token thing could tank just like Hedron's price has tanked, right? Just like everything over the last 200 days, right? Because the market's down, right? But the price at which these are getting paid out is going to be in a smart contract on some type of ratio, right? And if you look, it is based upon, at least what they say on the site here, it is based upon the borrowable Hedron and hex left in the stake. So if you come down here somewhere, it says it, the buyback, the Icosa protocol will buy any and all HSI NFTs created by the Hedron protocol at a rate determined by its borrowable amount of Hedron and the hex share rate at the time of sale. So say this comes out to be, 12,000 Icosa token things, right? Well, if I did a video on how to actually value the NFTs, you can check it out on the channel. Look on the channel, search for Hedron or search for NFT, and you'll be able to see how to actually value these things over on OpenSea, right, which is the platform you can purchase these on. Okay, so if you're over here and you're like, okay, cool, well, I have this and I'm going to get 7,000 of these tokens, and say the market value of your NFT, if it was actually sold at a price that was in any fucking, based upon reality, right? Or the share rate and how much borrowable Hedron there is, which is you're going to use to actually value these things. But say this 7,000, say the value over here is $800, right? That's the current price of this. I haven't valued this one to know if this is a good price or not a good price. You can go check out the other video to learn how to do that and check to see if this is valuable or not valuable. But we'll just assume that that is an accurate price, right? Well, say if this token sells for 1 penny, right? This Icosa token sells for 1 penny, then effectively you've got 7,000 Icosa. Every time I say this, there's a guy who turned around Chrysler back in the 70s and 80s, Lee Iacocca, who I enjoyed his biography. And every time I see this Icosa, I think of Iacocca, who was the CEO of Chrysler back in the day. But anyways, okay, so say this thing sells for a penny, right? Then that means you get $70 for your $800 stake, right? Perfectly possible, right? That's going to happen. We have no idea what this rate is going to be or how much this shit is going to sell for, what the demand is going to be, because all of crypto is dependent upon adoption. Every bit of crypto is dependent upon adoption. So you're like, okay, well, another framework to take a look at cryptos is which crypto do you believe is going to create the fastest or the ability to accelerate adoption within the ecosystem as a whole of crypto, but also in the broader market, right? Because crypto is only a tiny percentage of the world, right? So still interesting concept. How does this increase the borrowing, right? So we talked about the buyback thing. Is it going to be market value? Who the fuck knows? Until we find out how much this Icosa thing actually sells for in the marketplace, which is not going to be determined by the protocol. Stake Hedron. Okay, so you can take this Hedron, right? Because as I mentioned, there's no real point in holding Hedron. Unless you think people were going to start using their, loan protocol, but most people, as you can see, have not started using this. There is probably like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 people that are advances in default right here. 10 of them. Right, so 10 over here. But if you go to OpenSea, there's currently listed something like 650, there's total volume over the last 90 days of sold NFTs is 672. The total items currently listed is 563. So people are clearly using the NFT to get rid of these things, and they're not using the protocol to using the borrowing. So and that's like the only value of holding a Hedron really is speculation. And then if you thought that people were going to start using this, and how do you get these? How do you buy these potential defaulted HSI stakes? Well, you have to use Hedron, right? So that's the only value, in my opinion, at this moment in time, right? It doesn't seem like there's any other value to holding Hedron other than the speculation to do this. So by creating a way to stake Hedron, right, and earn yield, well, that is going to add to the incentive to hold Hedron, right? So let's read through this here. Stake Hedron for Icosa, this token here, Icosa or whatever it's called. The daily yield is determined by the amount of daily Hedron burnt within the Hedron contract. There are minimum stake lengths and bonuses associated with stake size. So the larger amount of Hedron that you stake, the larger the longer you have to stake, but also the larger you get, the larger percentage of the pool you're going to end up getting, right? Now, this is I'm not sure about because this is still new, so a lot of this might change, but the yield is determined by the amount of daily Hedron burnt, right? So this might just be looking at the Hedron contract and seeing if people are fucking burning. So if you use Hedron to buy one of these, if they go through to default, what you can do is, or you have to use Hedron to buy them, and then that Hedron is burnt. I believe all of it's burnt. So if it's looking at that, maybe that's how this is determined. I'm not sure. Maybe they'll give more clarity as they move closer to actually launching this thing. But that would, if they're earning a yield, and depending, if this is selling for, 0.000, right, then you're not going to you won't want 7,000. Maybe you're going to get 7 million of this thing to hopefully equate to some value that is based in reality for these things, because they are selling. Nothing crazy, but they are selling, So it'll be big piece of this is how much this shit is going to sell for, and then because that's going to dictate the yield that's earned on the Hedron here, right? Because you're going to stake your Hedron for this new token here. How much is that new token worth? We don't know. It's going to be based on how much the Hedron contract is burning Hedron, which I'm not sure how exactly that is going to be determined. You can also stake this token, right? So you could stake Hedron, earn this shit, and then take this, and you can stake this. And when you stake this, what you actually earn is more Hedron and this here. So like Hedron staking, Icosa yield comes from daily burn in Hedron, right? So this is probably coming from the Hedron contract in some fashion. Hedron yield comes from borrowed HSI hex stakes and emergency end stake penalties by the contract over the time. Emergency end stake penalties collected by the contract. I'm not sure what that is actually going to be from. Is that from the Hedron contract, I think? I'm not exactly sure, and I didn't see anything else on the site about this. But how effectively is this going to help this, right? So what happens is they mint this new token, and they're going to be like, hey, we'll give you this new token for your HSI stake, right? That's what this is in Hex. So you want somebody who was like, hey, I need cash for some reason. They could go to this protocol, and if they have an HSI stake, they can sell their HSI stake for this thing here. If this is a valuable proposition, assuming this has any value or like the ratio at which you're earning this thing relative to the market, if there's any like realm of like, reality there, it's probably going to be at a discount. I would assume you're going to sell it at a discount. But depending on how much that discount is, if the discount's 97%, like most people are probably not going to do it. If the discount is 10 or 15%, there's going to be probably a lot more people who will do it for the ability to liquidate their position, right? Without losing the whole thing. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. After this is done, now this contract has the HSI stake. What it does is that it takes that NFT, it brings it back to the just HSI stake, so it's no longer an NFT, and then it borrows all of the Hedron that is capable of being borrowed against in that HSI stake. And it takes that Hedron, and that goes to these people here who stake here. This one is just going to be minting, right? Based upon the smart contract in Hedron, it sounds like here, right? So that's how this is going to work. Then there's this last piece here, which is like, we are all the SA, whatever that means. But enter into a private staking pool, which generates yield in this token. This is a time-limited entry event, meaning you can only get in at the very beginning. Once you're in at the very beginning, you can't get out. However, it is an NFT, so you can sell this NFT or acquire somebody else's NFT. Once the pool starts, no one can enter again. As stakes end, yield increases for all the other stakers. Okay, so this it's kind of interesting, right? But then you're just going to have somebody who holds this shit for perpetuity, right? But you can, this should, depending on how the yield is, yield generates in their token, right? So if their token has any value, if their token provides utility, if their token is appreciating over time, then the NFT that is associated with the yield that it is capturing in this pool should go up in value, or would go up in value over time. This will be interesting to see. There's going to be a limited time, say, 30 days or 60 days, where people can purchase this NFT to earn this thing. Is it just going to be minting straight to here? I'm not exactly sure. I think they go down here and talk about it for a second. In terms of we are the thing here. You buy the NFT. So you have an option to purchase an NFT from the contract, which earns yield in this token during limited time event. There is no set price. The price you choose determines the amount of stake points the NFT is allocated. So you can just put in $5. You can put in $1,000 or $1 million, right, for one of these NFTs, and you get a certain amount of points for this. And there's probably so many points, and that's basically just going to be your allocation of the pool size will be determined by how much money you put into this NFT. Like Hedron staking, yield is determined by the amount of burnt Hedron each day. So it just looks like this is going to be, super cool, right? I just think this token could be super inflationary and, not necessarily hold a ton of value would be my concern. But super interesting nonetheless. And I think Alex is probably a very smart person and could just create another thing above and beyond on top of this to really make the HSI front end for Hex be the front end for Hex, because it provides a lot more value in essence, right? No dilution is what it says. After the event, every phase has ended. No more entries can be made into the staking pool. So, right, it's got that limited time where you can put money into the pool. The percentage of the staking pool your NFT is allocated determines your percentage of the daily yield in perpetuity. If other NFT holders end their stakes and claim their yield, they cannot re-enter. So once you have this NFT and you're earning yield, if there's so much yield earned on there and then you claim that, then you cannot get back in there, right? But you could always just sell your NFT or claim it, right? Either one of those things. Yield boost mechanics. To end the stake and claim the yield, you must exit the staking pool, because no new entries can be made into the pool. The percentage of pool allocation for all other NFT holders goes up when these stakes end. The last man standing earns 100% of pool yield. Pretty interesting, right? Pretty interesting protocol in general. There's some interesting things going on here with what could be very helpful for Hedron, right? This is going to hopefully add more burning pressure to Hedron token, so it's not just inflationary. If you look at their site right here, this is I think this is the number of days here at the bottom since the launch. I think it launched about 120 days ago, 121 days ago, and you get to see that the trend is up, and that's the amount of Hedron that has been minted. And as you get to see, the yellow here is that there's barely any actually being burnt, but there's a bunch of it being minted, right? So the supply is just going up like this. And what do we know about that? You can talk about the US dollar just going down in value, right? And kind of makes sense if you take a look at this, right? There's 6 zeros here, right? But you're like, had to put it into context in that we are in a bear market, right? So you would expect everything to be down, right? Just like this, right? So you're like, is that the case? How much is this going to actually hold up during a bull market? I don't know, but I do think this could potentially be very valuable to Hedron, if it really is going to depend on how much this thing fucking sells for, right? If this sells for trash and the ratio makes it so that you're selling $1,000 HSI NFT for 12 cents, like, it's not going to make any sense. Like, nobody's going to fucking do that, right? Just like nobody's using the borrowing right now. If this is valued so that your $1,000 HSI stake comes in at, say, $800 or $900, right? And so there's a little bit of a discount there. Even if it's close to $1,000, even better. This will definitely help with the ecosystem. So it'll be really, really dependent upon that one piece. How is that piece determined? By the marketplace. So how is the marketplace going to determine a price for something that appears to just inflate over time? I don't know. Be interesting. Yes, you could take this and stake this, but it does inflate pretty. We have no idea what the rate is, but if you're paying out yield for HSI stakes, you're paying out yield for Hedron staking, you're paying out yield for this staking this own token, and you're paying out yield for the NFT piece. It seems like a lot of inflation. I don't know what the numbers are going to look like, but hopefully there is more something that can help provide this to be valued so that it is closer to what the value of these should actually run for in the marketplace, because that would increase the number of people the number of stakes that would come in here. What happens if the number of stakes in this goes from 10, where it currently is? These are the ones that are going into default, because that's what this protocol is going to do. It's going to borrow them, and it's going to let that default so that they come into here, right? So what is that going to do? It's going to drastically increase the liquidations here, and those, when they're purchased, have to be used with Hedron, and that is burnt, right? So, well, not all of it's burnt, but a portion of it's burnt. I think a portion of it goes to the person or something. I don't remember the semantics of it or whatever, but the vast majority of the Hedron used to buy these things is burnt. So super interesting. Curious to see how this thing is going to be priced out in the market. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. What other projects are you interested in right now? Let me know down below in the comments. We've got a lot of cool stuff launching. Love to hear what you're interested. Let me know down below in the comments. You can check out my other YouTube channel. A lot of fitness related stuff over there. Icon should be coming up. Instagram down below. Other YouTube down below. Twitter also down below. As well as shop.letstalkpeds. Appreciate you. Talk to you soon. Peace.